So I have received a lot of notes from students who want me to complete this Insight Healthcare Consultants, which is the Module 1 through 3 SAM Capstone. I'm not comfortable completing the entire thing because this is actually the test for my students, and I want them to actually be able to do this on their own. However, I know there has been some difficulties figuring out the formulas, so I'm going to go into a little more detail here, but I'm still not going to do the entire thing, guys. So here we go. I've got my Insight Healthcare Consultants here down at the bottom. I've got project status, consultants, and schedule. We're going to go to the project status worksheet here, and it wants you to unfreeze. So make sure you unfreeze that first line, and then enter the now function in J1. Remember, the now function is in the formulas tab, date and time. It brings back today's date. And then up there in the number grouping there on the home tab is where you're going to be able to make it look like the short date format there. Step 3 wants you just to format the worksheet title. And so it just tells you right there to what color to make it, what size to make it. It wants you to merge and center that information, as well as use the autofit. Everyone should be able to do that by the time they get to this assignment. If you can't, then go back and review chapters 1, 2, and 3, looking specifically for those types of skills. Step 4 wants you to format the billing rate data. Wants you to italicize some information there, and then apply the currency number format so that it contains the dollar amount. And so up here in the number area, you have this dollar sign, but this dollar sign is exactly the accounting number format. So the difference between the accounting number format and the currency number formatting, which is right here under General, here's Currency, is where that dollar sign is located. And so that is a difference between the accounting and the currency. So it wants us to go to J2. So here's J2. It wants it to be currency. So see, if I apply the accounting, it puts the dollar sign clear over here on the left. But if I come up here and make it currency, it puts that dollar sign right next to the number. That is the difference between the accounting number formatting and the currency number format. All right, so we're ready. See, get to the next page. Step 5. Again, it's just wanting you to format some information. Merge A4 to A13 and rotate the text, middle align, and then resize the column. We did that in Chapter 3 in our projects. So the exact same thing we did there in Chapter 3. So I'm not going to go over that again here. Again, this is a test for my class. So number 6, format the data in row 4 so that it contains column headings. And I think the biggest one here is it's row 4. You've got description here, and it wants you to change that to service description. Make sure you spell it correctly. If you don't, it's going to be like you've never done anything there. And then apply the cell styles. Now, we didn't talk a lot about cell styles. I will give you that. Right over here is cell styles up here on the Home tab. If you click on this little More option here, we want cell style 6. So we've got our styles right here, accent 6. So that's what you're going to do, except you're going to apply that to the whole row. That's where the B4 to H4, cell style 6 is right there. And here's accents. Accent 6 is actually down here. Sorry about that. So you're going to select, let me see here, I'm looking over here at the instructions. B4 through H4. So here I've got B4 through H4. I'm going to go up here to cell styles, and it's cell style 6. Okay. And so that is B on step 6, and then autofit. Step 7 now is where it's wanting you to enter in some formulas and information. So let's look at this. Carla wants to include the actual dollar amount of the services performed in column E. Enter this information as follows. In cell E5, so that means it's telling you, first of all, to go and make E5 your active cell. You're going to enter a formula without using a function that multiplies the actual hours by the billing rate. So we find the actual hours in D5. The billing rate is located in J2. So in order to put in a formula without using a function, the first thing we have to do is, I should hear everybody saying, hit the equal key. That tells Excel we're entering in a formula. Then we're going to do D5 times J2, and times is the shift 8, the asterisk, and J2. The very last line of step A on number 7 says to include an absolute reference to cell J2 in the formula. We always want this to refer back to J2, so we need to make J2 an absolute reference. Hopefully you remember how to do that, because I'm not going to tell you. We did this in chapter 3. But J2, you need to change that and make that into an absolute reference for this formula. If you don't and you go to copy it down, it's going to count you wrong. If you just put in D5 times 85, you're going to get counted wrong. So you've got to make J2 an absolute cell reference. Look back at chapter 3 to find out. Or hey, do a Google search. But J2 needs to have an absolute cell reference. Once you get that done, you're going to copy them all down, and then you're going to format the range with the comma number format with no decimal places. And so your comma is right here up in your format, your comma style. And then right next to this is your increase or decrease your decimal levels. So step 8, Carla needs to show how much of the estimate remains after the service is performed. Provide the information as follows. In cell G5, enter a formula without using a function. So again, that's telling us that we want to make G5 our active cell. And again, we want to enter a formula without a function. So the first thing we have to do, everybody together, enter an equal sign. So we've got our equal sign here. We want to subtract the actual number of bills in cell E5 from the estimated amount in cell F5 to determine the remaining amount of the estimate for general administrative services. So this is a little backwards. This is where you're looking and you're thinking about a word problem in math and how would it be worded. We want to subtract one number from a different number. We want to subtract E5, so right here, from F5. So which one do we need to put first? you want to put F5 first. So we're going to put F5 minus E5 because it wants you to subtract the actual numbered billed from the estimated amount. Once you have that done, then you're going to copy everything down with the fill handle. Then you're going to format that with the common number format and no decimal places, just like you did in column E. Step 9. Carla also wants to show the remaining amount as a percentage of the actual amount. So in H5, enter a formula. So again, I'm going to make H5 the active cell. We want to enter a formula, so we have to, all together now, hit the equal key. And we want a formula that divides the remaining dollar amount, G5, by the estimated dollar amount, F5. So we're going to then enter in the remaining dollar amount, which is G5, divided by the estimated dollar amount, F5. Okay, so once you have that completed, then you're going to copy that formula down to H14, and you want to paste the formula and number formatting to display the remaining amount as a percentage of the actual amount for the other services and the total. So you're going to want it to look like a percent. So I'm going to bring this over here. Here's our instructions. Let's come down here. When you format it, you want it to be a percent. So make sure as you're looking at this and copying that down and formatting it, that you're formatting that to be a percentage. Again, I'm not going to go into any more detail on this one, as it is an exam. So in step 11, you're going to use conditional formatting, H5 to H13. So basically what you're going to do is select H5 to H13, click that range first, and up here's conditional formatting. And you're just going to use the highlight cell rules to format values less than 1% or 0.01 in the light red field with the dark red text. So the first thing you have to do is select that range and then use that conditional formatting. Step 12. Carla imported data about the consultants working on the Everett Hospital project and stored the data on a separate worksheet. Where was I at? Lost it. There we go. But she wants to include the data in the project status worksheet, so you're going to copy and paste data. So, I mean, you've done this before, guys. You've copy and pasted stuff. We've done it in Word. We've previously done it here in Excel. So we're going to go to the consultants worksheet. So we're just going to click on the consultants worksheet. And we're going to select the range B2 to G12. So we're going to go B2 down to G12. And we're going to copy. So I'm going to come up here to copy. And then we're going to paste the data. We're going to click into the project status worksheet. We're going to go to J3 right here, make J3 your active cell, and then we're going to paste, keeping the source formatting. So we're going to use this fourth one over. So you can copy and paste from one worksheet to another. You can also cut and paste from one worksheet to another. You just, when you're doing it, you want to make sure that you don't click in different cells around to make sure that you go right to the cell where you're wanting to paste it to. Okay, so now we're number 13. Carla needs to list the role for each consultant. So those with 4 or more years of experience take the lead role. Otherwise, they take the associate role. List this information as follows. We want to be in the project status worksheets. And then in N5, we're going to enter a formula that uses the if function. So if their years of experience is greater or equal to 4, we're going to display something. So let's kind of look at this. We're going to come up to our Formulas tab, going to go to More Functions, and we're going to go to Logical, and If. And so here's our function arguments. This is where we're telling it the rules that we want it to look at. So the logical test is M5 is greater than or equal to 4. So there's our test. If M5 is greater or equal to 4, if that is true, we want it to display lead. And if that's false, we want it to display associate. So it's actually looking at the years to figure out what the role is. What's really cool is when you go in for the next report that you do, when you update the years, the role's automatically going to change. That's what makes this a neat formula to use. So now you're going to copy that formula down, pasting the formula only, and then you're going to autofit in to the best fit. On number 14, Carla wants to include summary statistics about the project and the consultants. Include this information as follows. In D16, so we've got D16 here. Make that your, okay. Now when I hit this, I still had stuff coming up here with my if function. So the best way to fix that is just to hit my escape key. So if you ever have something funny going on with your worksheet, just hit that escape key on your keyboard, the ESC key. It's up in the upper left-hand corner of your keyboard. Here in D16, we want the average. What you need to do when you figure that average is make sure that you have the correct range that you want the average to be figured as. Okay, so make sure you're looking at that range M5 to M13 when you put in that formula and the function for average there. Step 15, we're going to make a 3D clustered column chart in the range B7 to H31, easier to interpret as follows. So we've got this chart right here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to change the chart type. You can't change it if you don't select it. You have to select it first. Then up here you have chart design and you have format. Chart design is where you can find and change the chart type. You're going to change the chart title. And then you're going to add a primary horizontal axis. Those are right over here under Add Chart Element is where you're going to find that information, as well as adding the data labels in the center of each bar. Okay, so that information you're going to find over here. Again, you just need to make sure you select that chart first, otherwise it's not going to work. You're going to delete row 33, so you're just going to select that row with that arrow pointing over to the left, right click and delete. And now we're ready for number 17. In the schedule worksheet, you're going to rename it to project schedule. When you rename it, make sure you spell project schedule correctly. Make sure you use capital letters. If you misspell it, then you're going to get all the points for everything that's on the project schedule worksheet counted off, because the program's not going to see it. So make sure that you spell that worksheet tab correctly when you make the change. Okay, so we're going to go into the schedule worksheet. Number 18, each service starts on a different date because the services depend on each other. Enter the starting dates for the remaining services as follow. So in D6, we want a formula without using a function. So that means we have to hit what key first? The equal key. We want to add 4 days from the date in C6. So we're just going to hit C6, add, which is the shift equal key, 4. So it's going to automatically add 4 days to that. B, in E6, it wants a formula that subtracts 3 days. So think of what we just did in the previous formula, only this time instead of adding 4 days, we're going to subtract 3 days. Then in F6, it wants a formula that adds 2 days to the value in E6. So you're going to use E6 and add 2 days. And then in G6, you want a formula that adds 2 days to C6. So think of what we did there in D6. You should be able to determine what the formula needs to be for the rest of those. Then number 19, you're going to copy the formulas to the rest of the schedule as follows. D6 to D7, D9, E6 to E7, E9, F6 to F7, F9, G6 to G7, G9. Okay, so you're going to copy all those down. Then you're going to go to C11. You want to enter a formula that uses the minimum function to find the earliest date in the project schedule. So you're going to use the minimum. And up here in our auto sums, you're going to find the minimum. And then in C12, you're going to use the maximum. And that's going to find the start dates and the completion dates for everything. Okay. When you enter in these functions, okay, like it tells you the minimum, you're going to enter the range C6 to G9. So C6 to G9, there's your range. You're going to find the minimum and the maximum for this range, and that's what's going to go here in C11 and C12. Okay. Now you're ready to save it and submit it. I hope that helps a little bit more. The questions that I've been getting, I'm not going to completely complete this one, guys. As I've said a couple of times, this is the test for my class. So good luck with it, and have a great evening.